Nightly Musers, followers of the pod, faithful few and hopeful many. This is Anchor by Spotify. If you haven't heard about it, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's the very platform that allows me to give you what I give you on the nightly. So let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And it gives you the ability to distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so much more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally FREE free. So here's where you come in. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That is ANCHOR.fm to get started. Thank you very much. Peace. Good evening. Welcome to the Nightly Muse. I'm your host, Tinayeshe. Music brought to you by Low Fly Productions. Late night. Trying to get these episodes done so I can get the content out. But I'm not gonna lie, this is looking like a photo finish. Or at least a very late night on my part, which is kind of the norm. So, had some fun, some good episodes the past couple nights. Stranger Things, living single. But I've got like 4 different ideas flowing through my mind right now, and so I'm going to try to get those done. Okay, so I'm going to change the tone. I don't know if any of these next ideas are much fun, but they're personal, so let's do it. Talk about the P word. Pornography. If you're listening with kids, or if this is your warning that I guess this isn't a NSFW or whatever, because I'm talking about real stuff. Mental censorship right there. Proud of myself. So I guess this is a little bit my testimony, a little bit my story with pornography, and just my best take at if you are a friend, a brother, whoever, it can be a resource, a warning, a testimonial of God's grace and goodness, but just me bringing you into a part of my life that is real. Not that I haven't done that before, but continuing that process. And so, full send, here we go. So, I think I mentioned a lot of this, but I'm going to repeat stuff. I mean, it's a solo pod, and I'm having to bank on my old brain for not repeating things, and sometimes repeating things, provide emphasis and let you know what's important. So we're going to do it. Kennedy's story, Tinayeshe Kennedy Manika's story. I am I'd consider myself a curious person. Why was always a question that I asked, because I wanted answers, and this world is complex, and if you're not asking questions, I feel like you're not paying enough attention. And so I asked questions about everything. I deduced a lot of things. I was always in my head. I feel like I've always been a thinker. That internal monologue or whatever, I've always just been in my head. I've always lived there. I was pretty sexually aware as a young kid. Not in a bad way. I just didn't think that girls had cooties. I thought they were beautiful creatures, creations of the Lord. And I deduced at a young age pretty easily that my parents love each other and I came from them, so I want that one day. Just simple deductive reasoning for a single-digit-year-old, because I don't remember how old I was. But I was pretty young. And I can easily see that the desire for marriage and fatherhood was there as long as I can remember, about as close to a lifelong desire as I've ever had. And I don't know what your theological stances are on Satan or the enemy or whatever, but I believe that they're, what is it? This fight isn't against flesh and blood, but powers and principalities. And so the spiritual world, I believe in all that stuff. And, I believe that God has ultimate power, but it seems that, the devil has limit power to a degree. And if narrow, wide, all of these things about choosing God or choosing elsewhere, the enemy, right? Like, he doesn't fight fair. And so I've seen how the line is so thin for me between marriage, lifelong desire, and glaring idol in my heart and in my life. And on top of that, kid who struggled with insecurity, body image stuff to this day. I went to Daytona last week and I laughed at myself because that was the first time in years that I had taken off my shirt to go into the beach, because I just wouldn't do that previously because I was just so image conscious. And I was kind of proud of myself. My body hasn't changed. I've probably gotten bigger since the last time I did it, but I was proud of myself for being okay with myself enough to enjoy the beach. Nobody was out here looking at me. There are bigger people in the world. And I consider myself proportionally thick. But it was a big step for me with a mixed group in terms of gender to be okay with myself, willing to enjoy myself, not worried about how I looked or how I felt, but just enjoying myself. And I did that. Again, most of the recap of Daytona will have to be a personal conversation, but back to the topic at hand, my insecurities have been a part of that's just been a part of the story. And being single my whole life, you question everything. Why? That question, why? It always comes back. And my struggle with pornography has probably been the biggest thing that makes me question or doubt my worthiness to be a husband or a father. That my struggle, one, the sanctity of my relationship with God, the difference, the linchpin, the deciding factor between God saying, "Well done, my good and faithful servant," and "Well done, my good and faithful servant," and depart from me, for I never knew you." The thing that held those two in the balance was my purity, my ability to abstain from pornography or not abstain. And so, like I said, the devil doesn't fight fair. It doesn't surprise me that the thing that I struggle with the most is the very thing that makes me question the two things in my life that I've always desired: marriage and children, family, fatherhood. And so that is how I'm going to open this episode, is by sharing. This is just me being real. I wasn't looking for anything good when I stumbled upon porn. But I wasn't looking for what I found, if that makes sense. I was curious. I have sisters that are 10 and 7 years older than me, which makes for not generational gaps, but kind of. We pop culture, media intake, sisters, they can watch that 70s show, and I probably shouldn't watch it with them, because if one is 12, I'm 2, right? So, but I was around 7 or 8, so 17, 7, and 14. It's kind of the age range there between my two sisters and I. And so, wasn't looking for anything good. It's funny, I laugh about it now. Wasn't looking for anything good, but you every show, every PG show, whatever, romance, things getting hot and steamy, and there's always, up until a point, or else, the ratings change, obviously. And so even if it's insinuating, innuendo implications, right? My sisters being the good sisters that they were. Close your eyes, Kennedy. And of course, the curiosity in my brain is, well, what am I closing my eyes for? What's the thing I'm not supposed to be able to see that's forcing me to have to not enjoy the show with my sisters? And or the movie with my family, or the show with my parents, whatever it was, right? There was this curiosity, and so I look for that, and I found porn. Back in the day with the pop-ups and looking up stuff you shouldn't look up, the computer goes crazy, and all of a sudden all of these pop-up ads are showing up, and there I was, 7 or 8, around that age. My whole world, I guess sexually, blowing wide open at an age where I was not ready for it. And it was things I wasn't supposed to see. But it was the answer to what I was looking for, but something that I just had no business seeing, and it changed me. I'm not a scientist in the sense of, we're all scientists, but I'm not, I'm not heavy in the research or anything, but I know it changes your brain chemistry, and how you view your wirings, all of that. There's a lot of things that change as a result of pornography, but it was like an answer to a question, except I didn't really know what I was doing, and I inherently knew it was wrong, because it was the thing that my sisters was telling me, I was being defiant, right? It's the thing that family's telling you to stay away from for good reason, but curiosity, right? It kills. What is it? Curiosity killed the cat. And it stole my innocence. And for better or worse, parents never really had the birds and the bees talk. In Christian culture, you just kind of learn that the S word, sex, it's bad, right? And so stay away from it. And the point is, right, in our faith, and if you don't ascribe to this religion or Christianity, the implication, right? It's what we believe, sex is a good thing. It's created by God, but outside of its intended context, marriage, the marriage bed, it's wrong, and it's toxic, and it's harmful, and it's dangerous. And so, obviously, I mean, your parents do the best that they can, and and the church does the best that it can. We're all flawed people, but for a kid with a lot of questions, it was an interesting life growing up. Not necessarily with my family, but just because sometimes you just ask questions that you're not ready for. You ask questions and sometimes you're just not ready for the answer. And I got the answer way earlier than I should have. And in a way that I shouldn't have obtained it. It was the wrong answer. An answer. I'm trying to say I bit off more than I can chew. Too much dip on your chip, and my world was just, man, I'm so middle school was really the first time that I had the sex is bad talk at my school, and they show you all the pictures of the STDs and gonorrhea and all that stuff, and you're learning that sex is bad, and you're learning about pornography, and that's kind of putting a name to what I was doing. I didn't realize that what I was doing was that. And now I'm immediately learning in like 6th, 7th grade how sinful my sin was. And so now enters shame. Well, that looks like a pretty good stopping point. If you've gotten this far, you will realize that there was no episode posted yesterday. I missed the 24-hour window for the first time in the Nightly Muse history, and I am ticked. As y'all know, I was trying to get I was trying to get everything done, and I was too exhausted to to edit, go to sleep, and then wake up early the next day. And so I fumbled the bag. Exciting news, though. Part of the reason I wasn't able to do it during the day today was because we are tracking the third project for the band that I'm a part of with my church. It's called You, Me, and the Bread. Bread being bread of life. And Jesus, yes, always a safe answer in church, as the great Michael Flake says. We are tracking, which today was a pretty much all day endeavor, and I didn't have great Wi-Fi connection to be able to get some of the stuff staged so that I would have been able to kind of like do a quick upload, and it would have been super unedited, and it just wouldn't have been possible. And I just couldn't make it happen. So deepest apologies for my part. But this is going to be a 2-part episode. I will be picking up, starting the podcast, really going deep into the effects that the pornography has had on me, in my life. I think I did a good job of an intro to how I encountered it for the first time. And yeah, if by God's grace you haven't, stay away. For the curious people like me now and me when I was younger, if this is any answer, the stuff that I saw were a cheap, manipulated, completely abusive version of the beauty of what God has created sex to actually be, and it's not worth it. So, happy to be a resource, happy to be an accountability partner to whoever needs it. I'm happy to be somebody to walk alongside, and if you or your friend or your child needs that, I'm happy to be that resource. If you know me, or don't know me and want to know me, this is, I guess, my invitation. I don't know, but yeah, 3 minutes too long now. I've added time to this episode clearly, but part 2 will be airing tomorrow. I'm about to start editing that right now because I'm a glutton for not sleeping, apparently. All right. Love you guys. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. And hopefully I won't be missing days again. But if I do, expect a apology at the beginning or end of the episode for whatever it's worth. Peace. Shout out Low Fly. Give this podcast 5 stars while you're at it.